When the State Board of Equalization met Tuesday to certify the amount of revenue available for appropriation next fiscal year, the depth of the state's budget hole became clear. Lawmakers will have about $6.6 billion to spend, an amount that is $611 million less than last year's budget. Legislative leaders blame the shortfall on the decline in oil prices, which are now less than half the $115 a barrel level recorded last June. Governor Mary Fallin says all options to close the budget cap will be considered.
I've suggested to the legislature that we look at all the different revenue streams that we have. We look at our tax incentives, our tax credits, we look at revolving funds, we look at carryover money. We can certainly consider the rainy day account if need be.
The governor also warned most state agencies will see budget cuts.
We're going to prioritize our spending on important areas like education, health, human services, public safety, and certainly infrastructure issues. But in the meantime, agencies should be prepared to take a cut in their appropriations.
House Appropriations and Budget Committee Chair Earl Sears says another option includes eliminating some of the $1.7 billion in tax credits the state gives away each year. But Sears says delaying the state income tax reduction, scheduled to take place January 1st, is an option that will not be considered.
That has happened, it's there, and I assure you I don't see the House taking steps to roll that tax cut back. After all, that is the people's money, and we'll just have to work with that as a goal. But I will tell you that the House's position will not be to continue new tax reductions in this environment that we're in.
Reducing the state's top income tax rate from 5.25% to 5% will cost the state nearly $50 million in the first year and up to 3 times that in the second year. But Senate Appropriations Chair Clark Jolly insists the tax cut isn't the problem.
It's the apportionments that have exploded over the last several years. The apportionments that have just increased repeatedly every year, siphoning more and more money away from the budgetary control of the legislature to fund whatever projects that are worthy and are good, I'm sure.
Jolly warns not all state-provided services will survive.
We will begin by suggesting that we do a thorough examination of agencies for duplication, for whether or not core functions are really being done, and trimming those non-core functions back when needed and when available, before we start looking at going to the rainy day fund.
State Finance Secretary Preston Dorflinger says budget negotiators will be scrutinizing every penny spent by state agencies.
There's something that I like to call swag. Other people might call it promotional items. There is entirely too much money spent in this state on everything from cups to, and I'm not saying that state employees don't need stress balls to take their stress out on, but there are plenty of tools at agencies' disposal, and I would suggest that they look thoroughly at those places before cutting programs.
House Speaker Jeff Hickman says budget negotiators will ask agencies not to target popular programs like senior nutrition centers.
Are there travel, conferences, those types of things that usually are the last things to go because they want to make cuts to things that really impact voters and are going to make the phone ring at the Capitol. So we'll be looking at the entire budget from top to bottom to make sure that we're actually cutting the things that have the least impact on Oklahomans and try to keep in place as much as we can of those things that really do make a difference.
An idea that was echoed by Dorflinger.
I think it's sometimes easier to suggest cuts to programs that make the executive branch and the legislature look bad instead of doing the hard work of truly evaluating their operation.
Legislative leaders have begun rehearing agency budget requests to determine how much appropriations can be cut without having a major impact on critical state services.